Hi guys, just before the lesson starts, this is actually an extracted lesson from our full, comprehensive National 5 Biology course, which can be found at the first link in the description. So if you like what you see here, make sure to go check out our course. All our lessons cover everything in a simple and easy to understand way, complete with practice questions and flashcards so you can really learn and understand the information. Anyway, let's get into the lesson. Hi guys, so today we're going to start the topic of transportation and still involving the cell membrane. So first of all, let's just start off by explaining our first topic. We have passive transport, and then we're also going to look at active transport in one of the next lessons. So this session is going to be passive transport, next lesson is going to be active transport. To give you a brief summary, passive transport doesn't require energy, and I'll be showing you why in this lesson, and active transport does require energy, and I'll be showing you why in one of the next lessons. So starting off with passive transport, and to kind of narrow it down a bit, passive transport is what we call diffusion. Now I'll give you this definition, and then I'll explain the definition throughout the lesson and how this applies to our cell membrane. So starting off, diffusion is when a substance moves from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration. So therefore, it's going down the concentration gradient. I'll show you the concentration gradient, and because of this, it doesn't require energy, which I'll also explain. So, starting off with just this example to kind of explain diffusion to you. Say we have a beaker with water in it. So this is full of water, and then we have a barrier in the middle. And then we have these red molecules, or these molecules that I've drawn in red. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 in area 1 and 4 in area 2. And with this barrier in the middle stopping them from merging together. So, all diffusion is about is think, what's going to happen when we remove this barrier? It's not going to stay like this. These are going to mix till there's equal concentrations in area 1 and 2. So because there's a high concentration in area 1, area 1's molecules are going to diffuse into area 2. So this is the direction of diffusion. And this is all diffusion is. It's molecules going from an area of high concentration to low concentration. Because in this one beaker, it's not going to stay like this. They will always be moving, but it will balance out till there's an diffusion will keep going on till there's an equal concentration in area 1 and area 2. Now, the molecules will never stop moving because molecules are always moving, but diffusion stops when there is no overall change in concentration between the two areas. So even after a few seconds, even after 30 seconds after removing this barrier, the concentration in area 1 and 2 of the molecules will be the same because it's just one body of water. So this is what diffusion is. It's because we have high concentration here in area 1 and we have low concentration here. But because the barrier has been removed, it's going to the molecules in the high concentration are going to just spread all throughout, as well as the ones in low, until it's an equal concentration in both areas. And that's when diffusion will stop. So this makes sense for diffusion is when a substance moves from an area of high concentration to low concentration. So now if we explain this in terms of the concentration gradient, and for this we need to draw a graph. So now with this graph, on the y-axis we have concentration of molecules, and on the x-axis we just have area 1 and area 2. So now plotting the concentration onto the graph. Concentration of 1 is going to be up here, and then the concentration of 2, at the start anyway, before we remove the barrier, is going to be lower down here. And this means when the barrier is removed, we're going to go like this. Down the concentration gradient. So all this means is we're going from here, area of high concentration, to an area of low concentration. Therefore, we're going down the concentration gradient. And therefore, going down the concentration gradient does not require any energy. And why is this? Because when we're going down the concentration gradient, it happens naturally. We don't need any energy to force these molecules to move or anything like that. It's completely passive transport. Passive transport does not require any energy, and this is because it happens naturally down the concentration gradient until the concentrations are equal. So that's why it doesn't require energy, because these molecules are going to move on their own. They don't need any type of extra energy to force them to do this. It happens naturally. So now that we've seen that, let's apply it to the context of a cell membrane. Hi guys, sorry to stop you here, but if you really like this lesson and think it would be super useful to have videos and lessons like this for the entire National 5 Biology course with practice questions and flashcards to go along with every single lesson so that you can really learn and absorb the entire course, head to the first link in the description. That's localtutor.uk/National 5 Biology, localtutor.uk/National 5 Biology, where you can get and have access to our fully comprehensive course that explains every single topic in the most understandable and simplest way possible. That's all from me. Let's get back to the lesson. Okay, so now looking at it in the context of a cell membrane. Just like in the beaker, if we have a high concentration of a substance, for example the red molecules here, and a low concentration inside, we're going to naturally see diffusion. Because if you remember back to the last lesson where we said molecules that are small enough can travel through the membrane, for the molecules that are, for example, oxygen, water, carbon dioxide, they're just going to diffuse like there isn't even a barrier like we showed in the beaker in the last example. It's just going to naturally diffuse. So because there's high concentration outside and a low concentration inside, we're going to go down the concentration gradient from a high concentration to a low concentration. So this is going to happen passively through diffusion. So we're going to see diffusion in going from outside to inside the cell. And that's all it is, because the membrane is selectively permeable and it lets these molecules, if they're small enough, diffuse directly through the phospholipid bilayer. Just go directly through until these concentrations are balanced out outside the cell and inside the cell. So now that we've seen that, there's just one more thing we need to look at. Hopefully that makes sense. I think it should, and it's quite logical why it doesn't require energy, because these concentrations inside and outside are just going to balance naturally. So let's look at this one last concept, which we call transporter proteins. Right, so now just looking at these things called transporter proteins. So as I said, molecules that are small enough can diffuse directly through the phospholipid bilayer. But what happens for molecules that aren't so large that they can't diffuse at all, but are too large to diffuse through the bilayer? Well, that's where these things called transporter proteins come in, which are here in blue. So, taking a look at a transporter protein, its job is to basically provide a channel for which these larger molecules to diffuse through. So, these larger molecules, such as glucose, as it's too large to diffuse through the bilayer, but not so large that it can't diffuse at all. So we have these things called transporter proteins which provide a channel for the molecules to diffuse through. So it still doesn't require any energy because it's still diffusion. So because there's a higher concentration outside than inside, we know we're going down the concentration gradient like so through this transporter protein, which is in the membrane. So these are what we call specific transporter proteins, and they usually only allow for the diffusion of one type of molecule through the cell. So this would be a glucose transporter protein that allows for diffusion outside to inside, or it could be inside to outside depending on what the concentration is. For example, if the concentration was a lot larger on the inside than the outside, then we would have diffusion going from the inside to the outside. But anyway, that is the end of this lesson. Hopefully you know all about passive transport and diffusion and how transporter protein works, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Right guys, so this was the diffusion lesson taken from the National 5 biology course on Local Tutor. If you thought this was helpful and it helped you to understand diffusion and you think it would be great to have a full course that covers every single topic in a high quality and easy to understand way, teaching you the simplest way possible, head to the first link in the description to take a look at our full course. Again, this will give you access to videos that cover the entire topic, complete with practice questions and flashcards. Thanks very much.